Just ahead in 7 News at 6, the southeast wildstorms claim more lives. A 9-year-old girl swept away, a boat with 11 people on board capsizes, plus thousands of homes and businesses still without power. Now the threat of more dangerous weather. Developing details. Also tonight, tributes for pioneering chef Bill Granger. The new personal security apps keeping you safe. The doco going behind the scenes of the coronation. What's driving Queensland's Bunnings obsession, and the winners of Oz Lotto's $90 million mega jackpot. All the details coming up in 7 News at 6.
The News at 6 is next.
Tonight, the southeast deadly storms, a 9-year-old girl and rugby union identity among 7 lives lost from Logan to Gympie. Widespread destruction, but the Bayside bears the brunt of a Boxing Day battering. Tom Tate slams the Weather Bureau as the Gold Coast recovery hits top gear. Tributes from around the world after the shock death of popular Australian chef Bill Granger. The Queen's final wishes revealed in a new behind-the-scenes look at the royal family. And Pat Cummins' impossible catch turns the tide to put Australia on top in the Boxing Day test.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Kendall Gilding.
Good evening. The southeast week of destructive storms has now claimed 7 lives. The youngest victim, a 9-year-old girl who was swept away in floodwaters at Rochdale South. 3 people lost their lives in Moreton Bay after winds overturned a boat with 11 people on board.
A teacher, a rugby identity and a 9-year-old girl. These are some of the victims of Boxing Day's deadly storms.
The thoughts of all Queenslanders are with those families who are grieving right now.
For a group of friends, a day on the bay turned to horror as severe weather carved a formidable path. Their boat flipping in 100km/h winds, plunging all 11 people on board into the water south of Green Island.
The conditions were horrific and visibility would have been down to metres.
Emergency crews battled through it to search for the missing. 8 people survived by clinging to the hull. As families were told, 3 others weren't so lucky, including school teacher Stephen Tate and former Queensland rugby union player David Logan. His club releasing a statement this afternoon describing the 69-year-old, known by friends as Mario, as one of the finest, most fun-loving, highest integrity people you could ever meet. And we're all so blessed that he was in our lives.
It would have been very difficult to survive in those conditions anywhere.
In Gympie, 2 women died in the Mary River after being caught in a popular storm drain known as the Love Tunnel. Then there's little Mia, who jumped the fence of her home in Rochdale South and never returned. She was swept into a storm drain by surging floodwaters.
It has been a very, very tragic 24 hours due to the weather.
Christmas Day was also tragic. A 59-year-old Gold Coast woman also killed when she was crushed by a tree in another supercell. Police will now prepare 7 separate reports for the coroner. They say it is a tragic reminder of how dangerous and deadly severe weather is and how quickly it can change. The Prime Minister describing the events as such sad news. My heart goes out to the families of those Australians who've lost their lives and to the communities taking care of them.
These storms, you've just got to be so careful.
As heartbroken families question why the end of 2023 has been so cruel. And those tributes are continuing tonight, especially here at Iona College, where Stephen Tate was a teacher for around 20 years. I'm told universally loved, very popular between both staff and students. In an online post, they've described and paid tribute to his compassion, humour and wisdom. He was also a Queensland Rugby Union representative and played at the South Club for around a decade, more than a decade even. No doubt his death and that of David Mario Logan will be rocking the rugby community tonight.
I'm sure it will. Garth Burley reporting live for us at Wynnum West. Last night's storm was the 3rd severe supercell in less than a week. Brisbane's Bayside was in the firing line, the cost of the damage adding to an already astronomical bill.
A Boxing Day beating,
That tree just came.
wiping out Wynnum and the Bayside.
The windows are shaking.
uprooting giant trees, ripping off the roof at the local state school.
It was so loud and there was so much rain and wind that you couldn't really see what was going on either.
The third supercell in as many days, its ferocity taking everyone by surprise.
And there was just waves of storm cells, one after the other. The first few were quite mild, and then it got really, really intense.
These storms have hit very, very highly populated areas.
Wind gusts so strong they lifted and tipped boats at Manly weighing almost 2 tonnes.
That whirly tornado came through and it's just picked up these two. And then it's gone through to take out the boat club down there. We didn't need this today.
The owners now left to deal with thousands of dollars in damages.
All boats are expensive to fix.
Nathan and Natel Rogers' car and their neighbour's roof both casualties of fallen branches.
It was pretty loud, very windy, and we were just concerned about all the trees, really.
We usually miss it here, though. I feel like this is probably the worst our area's copped it over the years, I would say.
The intensity of the cell sky high, putting on a show for passengers on a flight from Brisbane to Adelaide.
There were 250,000 lightning strikes the day before yesterday, another 150,000 lightning strikes yesterday.
Sian Kelly, her partner and their 7 children are still cleaning up from the Christmas night storm.
Oh my God!
The wind was going crazy, quickly ran inside, and as we closed the door we thought lightning hit the house.
Their Flagstone home destroyed.
I don't even know how to describe it other than it was like a cyclone.
With a major clean-up effort now underway across Brisbane, the City Council is making it free to drop green waste at any dump between now and New Year's Eve.
SES are dealing with nearly 1,000 requests for assistance. That is a very heavy workload for them.
A typical Queensland summer, unpredictable and unrelenting. Anna McGraw, 7 News.
Thousands of homes remain without power tonight as Energex works to assess the extent of the storm damage. Rachel Baxter, what areas are worst affected?
Well, Kendall, the Gold Coast, Logan and Scenic Rim have been hit the hardest. More than 1,000 power lines came down in the severe storms. 123,000 homes lost power. More than 60,000 are still in the dark across the Gold Coast, nearly 8,000 in Logan and almost 14,000 in the Scenic Rim in Brisbane. Energex is working to restore power to almost 2,000 homes, with some of the worst affected areas including Thornside and Wellington Point. Energex says some areas, particularly south of the Gold Coast, are hard to get to, but they are hoping to confirm a time frame by tomorrow. Kendall?
Rachel Baxter there. Well, let's bring in Liam Bland now. Liam, confirmation today the Gold Coast was struck by a tornado.
Kendall, the Weather Bureau says the damage is consistent with that of a tornado, with winds of up to 160 kilometres an hour recorded. The clean-up continues tonight as locals pick up the pieces. Many were caught off guard, including the mayor, who says the lack of warnings is unforgivable. In the corner of an Oxenford home, a cot covered in rubble.
We had the kids all here and we all huddled downstairs.
The roof gone, blown 2 streets away, landing on top of another house. The Gold Coast hinterland hit hard too. On Tambourine Mountain, a roof collapsed on Oliver while he was asleep.
It dropped on me, so yeah, and those tiles and everything in it.
The Kings sheltered from shattering glass.
You hear the stories, as everybody does. Sounds like a train coming. Well, it sounded like a freight train and a half.
The couple hid.
Just stood in there and pulled it back a little bit, and that was our spot.
Len's chimney was blown into his front yard.
It just got louder, and then I started to hear the windows starting to pop and break.
He was huddling in a room alone as his home blew away. Somehow his car still runs.
There was nothing much to do except stand there and wait to finish and admire the lightning through the hole in the ceiling where the roof used to be.
Across the Gold Coast, 1,400 homes have structural damage. Tens of thousands of people are powerless.
They have described the damage to the power system as unprecedented.
Trees remain across roads, backyards and in pools. Businesses are throwing out food.
Clean up and everything when I chuck in the bin is like more than 15,000.
It's hurting us, it's hurting the community.
The Weather Bureau has confirmed it was a tornado which struck the city on Christmas night.
It is consistent with a tornado damage, and so that's why we have seen very destructive trees down, power lines down, as well as roofs ripped off houses.
Gold Coast Mayor Tom Tate today scathing about the lack of warning and says even he wasn't properly informed.
I think it's unforgivable.
Today, some theme parks reopened. Whitewater World and Wet n Wild remain closed, as well as some parts of Dreamworld, as Queensland's tourism capital counts the rising cost of a brutal summer storm. On the Gold Coast, Liam Bland, 7 News.
Well, now to Jordan Quinn. Jordan, there's a huge clean-up operation happening in the Gold Coast hinterland.
Tamborine-Oxenford Road is really the hardest hit here in the hinterland. It's going to take weeks to clear up all these trees which have fallen onto cars, houses and power lines. Now, the SES has been called to more than 100 jobs today on Tamborine Mountain alone, adding to the frustrations. Most of the community has been left without power. All but a handful of local shops have closed. Police have also set up a mobile beat to keep residents informed while this community tries to get back on its feet.
Well, to Laura Dimmick now, and what are the chances of more storms tonight?
Well, we can't rest easy just yet, Kendall. More could develop this evening, but today brought more settled conditions than were first forecast. There is a severe system in the scenic rim heading east towards the Gold Coast, set to affect suburbs south of Canungra. Small cells also popped up during the day, dropping rain around the far north, Mackay and Lockyer Valley. Tomorrow, we go from one extreme to another. Storms to heat. Much of the state is experiencing above average temperatures. It will be more severe in the far west and in the southeast. I'll tell you how hot it will get a little later. Kendall?
Thank you so much, Laura.